Hello there and welcome to a new episode of Afterthoughts. I just recorded a lied from Schubert, the second Schubert piece, Gretchen am Spinnrade. Second one we did recently, Erlkönig for solo version, for keyboard, for piano actually, a 19th century edition, transcription by Horn, which is very nice done, the Erlkönig as well as Gretchen am Spinnrade, very close to the source original score. But as we had some very positive and interesting discussions on Facebook about the fact whether we should or I should or one should play Schubert and certainly Schubert transcriptions on the clavichord or not. It's obviously in the 19th century, 1814 was the Erlkönig. This one is a little bit earlier. And then a mid-19th century transcription, which of course was made purely for the piano. But since I liked it, I just played it and I shared it with you. That's the essence of this YouTube channel, that things I like and sound beautiful, I just shared that. But it was an interesting discussion because it's kind of philosophy, whether you should do this or not. The second thing was that I got some remarks, not just ideas and reflections about the strength and the dynamic possibilities of this clavichord, whether that is something that is historical or that is just a fact that it's made by a very good builder who is capable also of giving this instrument a nice resistance, certainly also in the treble range, where many clavichords, also historical ones, maybe are a little bit less present. Yes, that's a question you could ask. I'm playing on this instrument. It's not an old one; it's a new one, and I use the color and the dynamic possibilities that are in this instrument. I don't think so, and I'm not opening a discussion. It's just as a kind of answer to these public discussions. That's my point of view. I don't think that the clavichord was intended to be a very soft instrument. It's to sources I know. I'm not speaking of that. The clavichord are very intimate instruments. Obviously, they don't sound very loud. They're not comparable in any means to the sound production level of a harpsichord or a pianoforte, but they have within their dynamic possibilities the possibility of being very intimate and very rough at the same time, and you can balance this and you can make differentiations as many as you want, and that's something very unique to the clavichord, this direct emotional translation. As well in the very intimate sense as in the very brutal sense. And in the Erlkönig, I particularly found that this instrument could manage the very dynamic input, the sound. And somebody was speaking about that this Erlkönig must go up in this kind of sound cloud, very hard, very fortissimo, and of course it should. But the question is whether that can be reached on the clavichord. And to my taste and feeling, yes, it can. It's not because the sound level is lower that the dynamic range of what you expect actually as a human hearer with your ears more than with the recording is giving a result in a way that it ends up also with the Erlkönig in a kind of very dramatic, powerful sound, and that's what I think the music should have. So interesting questions, and to summarize, I really believe that the good clavichords, and you hear this distinction, or you read this distinction often in 18th century sources, distinction between good and normal clavichords, and especially Adlung, but there are other sources as well, and I should find time to share that with you. But you find sources, and Adlung is one of the most important ones, who especially speaks of the fact that the good clavichord is always a loud clavichord. And that's very interesting, shares some suggestions how to make this clavichord sound less loud, just by covering it with some material and so on. And that's typically something that with instruments here of Potvlieg in general is expected, that they are much louder than many other instruments, and that's just a fact. That's not a standpoint. Just is that historical or not? I think it is. I think that Erlkönig, if there would be a transcription in the early 19th century, and probably they made them themselves, was perfectly fitted for the Clavichord. And I turned the things around, and then we come to Gretchen and Spinnrade. Just as an idea, the authentic sound channel, the authentic sound is obviously related to the sound of the instruments, in this case the Clavichord. And it's my idea that I'm always trying to reconstruct the context, and it's so difficult if you have a perimeter around the composer, whether what instruments did Schubert play, what instruments did Mozart play it on, or Beethoven, and more difficult question, what instrument sound had they in mind, what instrument sound had Beethoven in mind, did he had the instruments that he wanted or not? And that's very interesting, and that is so important that we have research people doing that and diving into that. But I think it's dangerous at the same time that we as musicians take that instrument and information and just keep within this very short, small perimeter of information and say, well, Beethoven didn't have that instrument, so he shouldn't play on it. You can, however, make that as a kind of mantra, but to me, and I find it much more relaxing, is to see what instruments were available at the time. And the Clavichord is in our time underpresent. It was omnipresent in the 18th century, also in the late 18th century, and and I'm sure that, and you can read it also with sources as Gottlob Turk, somebody else who we really have to cover. It's so interesting. We had a Clavichord even in 1814, 1818, and there are testimonials of students coming there. He and the students playing Mozart, Beethoven and other modern music on the Clavichord, on the sanftem alten Klavier, not on the pianoforte. So, not saying that you have to play it on Clavichord, but just the fact that the instruments were there and still were used very much, and so also for this music, later music. At the end, of course, it must work, and to me it worked, and I can imagine that if you are very familiar with the Erlkönig, and a more modern version, or even with the pianoforte and a singer, that's a huge step for a solo version on Clavichord. But it's only a recording and can open some room for discussions. Okay, here we have Gretchen and Spinnrade. Was suggested in one of the discussions with a singer, but I don't have a soprano here. I have a daughter of 10 who has a very beautiful voice, and we actually try to do something. Maybe it will work or not. She just start, and it's just an experiment. But she's not ready to sing this in public yet. When she is, we will do it, and we will share it on YouTube. So I played the solo version, and it went like this. I just printed this score from home. I just tried it on the Clavichord. If it really worked well, you know, this kind of motif figure would work very well on the Clavichord. It was a suggestion on Facebook, and it did. And I just liked the music so much that I thought, well, you know what, I just make a second Schubert, and I won't make many of them, so don't worry about that. It's just those two songs, and then we have to wait for the pianoforte, and that's coming. So for this piece, and I just slightly touch some elements. What's of course difficult on the keyboard instrument is the separation between the voice and the accompaniment, and that's not different here, and certainly not on the Clavichord. So my approach to that is, if you play transcriptions, and what I did very often in the 18th and 19th century, and in all times, it's important to realize that you make a new piece out of the original one. It's impossible on the Clavichord, and it's impossible on the piano, maybe on the Steinway grand piano. If you're very, very trained and gifted pianist, that to distinct the voice that much on the keyboard that you will have in reality. In other words, for me the approach to such a music is, this is not anymore a song, this is a keyboard work. And by approaching that, you open new ways. And so, for instance, if you start with the music, separation is there. You could hope for more, but it's not necessary. If this was a singer, she should come out a little bit more, certainly, but it's not. It's a keyboard instrument, keyboard work now. The drive of this piece obviously is the Spinnrade, and that's the difficult part. I mean, you have this melody and this bass, certainly the melody, but also the accompaniment, this one. It's really giving the pulse to the music, so. And when you come later, you can work with it. Actually, you could say that this accompaniment gives relief to the first beat, which is heavy and a little bit longer. But the Spinnrade, the spin wheel, should go on, of course. And this is kind of very nice contrast between this perpetuum mobile and the melody who wants to have a little bit of vibrato. Obviously, you lay them sentences down very nicely and you take them up again. And I hope that I succeeded on the record. Just to give this balance, and sometimes when you just lose a little bit, and the perpetuum mobile of the spin wheel, when the entrances of the da capos are there, the rondo, the same theme as the beginning, that works very nice. And certainly if you have a crescendo like this, just little small, not doing too much, but it has a huge effect. Just by slightly modifying the move, the perpetuum mobile gives an enormous opening to a new sentence. It's difficult to do it without real playing the whole piece. Certainly also on the end. And then a ritardando. Never do the ritardando too fast, too soon. Okay, so we could say a lot of more things, but that's just two elements. It's a very nice piece to play. It's not too difficult, just that you have to keep the tempo and keep this movement going. So technically spoken, just by fingers is not the most difficult piece, but in execution it requires some control, certainly on the clavichord. So I hope you enjoyed this. Please thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for these afterthoughts that we would cover, please let me know. I'm just telling you, improvising a little bit and giving you a small look behind the scenes, my way of thinking, reflections. But don't hesitate to contact me if you want, or if you would like to hear something about a particular thing. I'll cover that. So thank you for watching, thank you for the subscription, and if you like this video, please share it with your friends, tell that over the world, and we see each other very soon again. Bye.